The first clue was buried inside a dead man's voicemail. Private investigator Elias Winter replayed the message 3 times while sitting in his rain-soaked car outside the harbor in Gothenburg. Static cracked through the speaker. Then a terrified voice whispered, "You were right about her. She's moving bodies with the shipments." The voicemail ended with a scream and the sound of metal crashing. By sunrise, the caller was dead, and the woman Elias had been hired to investigate was already preparing to disappear. Her name was Helena Markovich, a celebrated shipping magnate known for charity galas, political donations, and luxury real estate across Scandinavia. To the public, she was elegant, disciplined, untouchable. But to the European Financial Crimes Authority, she was something else entirely. A ghost hiding behind legitimate business, and Elias had just stepped into the darkest investigation of his career. Elias wasn't a police officer anymore. 5 years earlier, he had resigned from Sweden's National Investigative Bureau after a trafficking case collapsed in court. Witnesses vanished. Evidence disappeared. One teenage victim later died from an overdose before she could testify. Elias never forgave himself. Since then, he worked alone. No partners, no media, no attachments. So, when the European Financial Crimes Authority contacted him privately in late October, he initially refused the assignment. The agency believed Helena Markovich was running a multinational criminal operation through her logistics company, Baltic Crown Shipping. But every official investigation had failed. Witnesses withdrew statements, auditors changed testimonies. Digital records vanished before warrants could be executed. Someone inside the system was warning her. The agency needed someone unofficial, someone invisible. That someone became Elias. Helena's empire stretched across ports in Sweden, Poland, Estonia, and northern Germany. Officially, Baltic Crown transported industrial machinery and pharmaceutical supplies. Unofficially, nobody knew. That was the terrifying part. There were rumors, human trafficking, black market medical sales, political bribery, money laundering, but nothing ever stayed solid long enough to prove. Helena surrounded herself with former military contractors and cybersecurity specialists. Even journalists stopped investigating her after a respected Danish reporter vanished 2 years earlier while pursuing a story connected to Baltic Crown. The reporter's body was never found. Elias started carefully. Bank records, cargo manifests, employee interviews. At first, everything looked clean. Too clean. Entire years of accounting were flawless down to the decimal. No business that massive operated without irregularities. The perfection itself became suspicious. Then Elias found the first crack. A refrigerated cargo container listed as carrying vaccine storage units had traveled through 3 countries without customs inspection. The shipping weight changed twice during transit. But the container number remained the same. That meant records had been altered manually. Someone high up had intervened. Elias traveled to Gdansk to interview a former dock worker named Tomasz Lewicki. The man agreed to speak only inside an abandoned church outside the city. Tomasz arrived shaking. He kept checking the windows. "She owns police," he whispered. "Politicians, too." Elias pushed him gently. "What's inside the containers?" Tomasz hesitated for nearly a minute before answering. "People sometimes." Elias froze. Tomasz explained that certain containers arrived sealed with special authorization codes that bypassed inspection. Dock workers were ordered never to open them. But one night, a refrigeration unit malfunctioned. The screams started after midnight. Tomasz and another worker opened the rear hatch slightly. Inside were terrified migrants packed in darkness. Some were alive, some weren't. Before they could report it, armed security arrived. The next morning, the other dock worker disappeared. Tomasz fled Poland within days. Elias finally had a direction, but he still didn't have proof. And proof was everything. 3 nights later, someone broke into Elias's apartment in Stockholm. Nothing was stolen. Instead, the intruder left a photograph on his kitchen table. It showed Elias entering the church in Gdansk. On the back was a handwritten sentence. "You should have stayed retired." For the first time in years, Elias felt genuine fear. Not for himself, for everyone connected to the investigation. He contacted the authority overseeing the operation and demanded additional protection for witnesses. The response disturbed him even more. One official refused to continue communicating through government channels. "Your files are compromised," the official warned. "Someone internal is leaking information." That changed everything. The corruption wasn't orbiting Helena. It was protecting her from inside the system itself. Elias stopped trusting encrypted phones, stopped using official databases. He moved between cheap hotels across Northern Europe, carrying physical copies of evidence in a locked backpack handcuffed to his wrist at night. The deeper he dug, the uglier the truth became. Helena's operation wasn't just smuggling migrants. She was exploiting them. Victims who survived the transport were forced into illegal labor networks across Europe. Some disappeared into underground clinics tied to organ trafficking investigations in Eastern Europe. Financial trails linked Baltic Crown to shell corporations in Cyprus and Luxembourg. Then Elias uncovered the exposure that changed the entire case. Several European officials had secretly received payments through consulting contracts tied to Helena's companies, customs officers, border agents, even a deputy minister in Sweden. The operation had survived because powerful people were profiting from it. But the most devastating revelation came from Helena's own accountant. A quiet Swiss financial analyst named Lucien Favre contacted Elias through a burner email requesting an emergency meeting in Zurich. Lucien looked exhausted when they met inside a crowded train station cafe. "I helped build the system," he admitted. "I thought it was tax evasion at first. Then I saw death certificates." Lucien handed Elias a flash drive. Inside were encrypted financial ledgers, offshore account records, shipment schedules, and internal communications between Helena and government officials. But there was one folder Lucien refused to explain in public. "Open it alone," he said quietly. 2 hours later, inside his hotel room, Elias decrypted the folder. His blood ran cold. The files contained photographs and transaction logs proving Helena had ordered the elimination of witnesses tied to trafficking operations, including the missing Danish journalist, including Tomáš's co-worker, and possibly the dead man from the voicemail. Elias finally understood why everyone investigating Helena either vanished or backed away. This wasn't organized crime hiding behind business. This was a corporate machine engineered for human destruction. The next morning, Lucien Favre never arrived for their second meeting. Swiss police later found him dead in his apartment from an apparent suicide. Elias didn't believe it for 1 second. Now he knew Helena was cleaning up loose ends, and he was next. For nearly 2 weeks, Elias disappeared completely. He stopped contacting handlers, stopped using banks, stopped turning on his personal phone. Instead, he assembled the case manually across multiple encrypted storage devices and physical archives hidden in separate countries. If Helena found one copy, others would survive. Then came the final twist. One name inside the payment record stood out above all others: Commissioner Henrik Söderlund, a senior official inside the very European authority that hired Elias. The man overseeing the investigation had secretly protected Helena for years. Elias realized the entire operation had been compromised from the beginning. He could trust almost nobody. The takedown happened quietly. No dramatic raid. No televised arrests. Elias bypassed corrupted channels completely and delivered duplicate evidence packages directly to prosecutors in The Hague and international investigators connected to Europol, Within 48 hours, sealed warrants were issued across 4 countries simultaneously. Ports were locked down, accounts frozen, servers seized. Helena Markovich attempted to flee aboard a private jet from a small airfield outside Malmö. Authorities intercepted her before departure. Commissioner Söderlund was arrested the same morning. So were customs officials, corporate executives, and 2 politicians tied to Baltic Crown's operations. The investigation exposed one of the largest trafficking and corruption networks uncovered in Northern Europe in decades. Months later, Elias sat alone beside the harbour in Gothenburg, watching cargo ships disappear into the fog. The case had made international headlines, but victory felt hollow. Too many victims were never identified. Too many graves had no names. A young survivor rescued during the raids once asked Elias a question he could never forget. How many people knew? He never answered her, because the truth was unbearable. Too many people had known, and too many had decided to look away. If you enjoyed this shocking true crime story, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications for more intense investigations and dark mystery stories. Do you think powerful people can really hide crimes forever? Or does the truth always come out in the end? Drop your thoughts and theories in the comments below.